Good evening, everybody. I do think we are live tonight. Just want to just officially welcome all of you to our Omega Chi Black History Month series that we do every Tuesday and Thursday. I am Brother Collins Pettaway the third,
I
here with
am.
our. Go ahead.
Oh, my fault, my fault.
I
Listen,
was throwing it over to you.
I thought you throwing it over to me.
I
I
was throwing it over
apologize.
to you.
My man, my man. How you doing? My name is Calvin Marshall. I am the chapter botanist, also Selma history teacher. So it had to be some reason for me to be involved. You know, I love history. I love artifacts. I love dates. I just love everything about the this portion of history, especially when it's about my own culture. Tonight we have a special guest. He is from this area, man, well renowned in his field, well renowned in Omega Psi Phi, well renowned in our local chapter, and I'm super excited to hear his story and what he brings to the table. I've been knowing him for maybe 5 to 6 years now personally, but you know, even within knowing a person personally, you don't get to know everything about them, and I can't wait to hear about him. I'm passing it over to you, Brother Collins. I'm gonna let you introduce him because you know him very well.
Yeah, I think I know him pretty well, I guess. No, I'm excited to have he is my father. I'm proud to call him my father. I'm proud to call him my Elks brother. I'm even more proud to call him my fraternity brother in Omega Sci-Fi. And I am honored to be his legacy. And so Judge Pettaway, I have to say Judge Pettaway tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, good evening to see the bros, and it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be of
Yes,
assistance,
sir.
especially during this time of history. And I know we are celebrating African American history, but I prefer to just say Black history. You know,
Yeah.
I can recall when everything was black. You know, I grew up during a time when stuff went from being Negroes to and then there still was some color going on when I was young. And then Negroes, then Afro American, then we would end up being black, and I like the black, and black just stuck with me. Then we went to back to Afro American for a little bit, then African American, and but I just like the black.
Just speak to
Listen,
the
I'm
Go
all.
ahead.
No, I was going to say, listen, I'm all for it too. Absolutely. I say black all the time, definitely. But first and foremost, listen, the floor is yours, absolutely, because you're our guest tonight. And the first thing we just like to do, if you don't mind, without telling some of everything, because we got a lot that we have a lot that we're going to cover. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, wonderful. My name is Collins Pettaway Jr. I am the fifth child of eight from the Reverend Collins Pettaway Sr. and Mrs. Alma Mosley Pettaway. My mom is deceased now, passed back in 2011, and of course she's greatly missed from us, her husband and children. But we come from a great stock of parents. My mother's family. Uh, my grandfather, her father, was a minister. He surpassed one of the bedrock churches here in this area called the Green Street Baptist Church. And her mom was a school teacher. She actually started the first all black school, a private school for black children, because that you had the integration back then, and she started the first private school for black children in this area. And my mother, learned from that. My mother's whole family, all her brothers and sisters, learned education, and they also learned music. All of them had various musical gifts. All of them either played for various churches, and my mom was one of the better musicians. And of course, she left, went to Detroit, and she played. She actually played for people like Aretha Franklin. Her first recording that she did singing "Precious Lord." That was my mom doing the playing. She played with the likes of James Cleveland, the Caravans, things of that nature. And so, but she came back to Selma and made roots here. And of course, my father's family, they were all the country folk. My grandfather, my father's father, was a well-renowned farmer, and you learn a lot of wisdom. And I learned all my country stuff from them, and also my hunting tactics, fishing tactics, things of that nature, and just hands-on stuff. Back when we were young, my brothers and I we had perfect attendance in school because we lived out in the country. And if you were sick, you didn't you didn't miss school because you had to work. Going to school was a respite for us, so we had perfect attendance. It's not like it is today. You can get a cold or a little sniffles and hang out. Oh no. We had the only time I ever missed school was I think I had a bad problem. My tonsils was swollen, my whole neck was just swollen. My mom had to take me to the emergency room, then to the doctor and stuff like that. But we went to school, but it helped us because all of us were very well educated, and I'm a product of Dallas County High School, and I was an athlete there, played football, basketball, baseball, even ran track. And of course, I was in high school. All I can do is think about those memories. Now, I set a lot of records playing high school sports. Matter of fact, all of my records but one still stand. And so I was probably the most prolific athlete, high schooler that has came through here. Went to college, Alabama A&M, and I enjoyed there, matriculated there, and learned a lot about life. And I got my degree out of the School of History. And so I love history. The School of History housed our political science department. My undergraduate degree in that and criminal justice, and went on to law school. I went to the George Washington University Law School called the National Law Center, right around from the courthouse. I mean from the White House, and studied there and made some advancements. And I wanted to come back home. And so I've been back home. I went back to Birmingham. My parents had moved to Birmingham in '78, and went back to Birmingham initially in '85 when I got finished. But then I finally went ahead and matriculated here in Selma, and that's where I am. And so, I practiced law for about 28 years with a very prestigious law firm, Chestnut, Sanders, and Pettaway. It was at one point the largest all-black law firm in the southeast area of the United States, and we did a lot of work. We represented plaintiffs mostly, but a lot of governmental work too. And that helped propel me. And after working for so long, I said to myself, I need to retire or either get another vocation. And so the opportunity arose to seek the position of circuit judge. And that's where I serve now. I'm one of three circuit judges in the 4th Judicial Circuit, which comprises Bibb County, Dallas County, Hale County, and Perry County. We are the largest geographical circuit in the state, comprising 5 counties. So I do like they did in the old Western days. I had to get on my horse, which I have a truck that I drive, and I ride the counties, and we set up court every day and move forward. Of course, with this pandemic, we've been doing everything virtually, and of course, I like that virtual, and so it's here to stay now. I tell everybody, all of my lawyers and folk, that hey, we're going to do this for a while because it really does help. Because a lot of people, sometimes people have trouble traveling. Well, fine. Get out your device, whether it's your phone, your computer, whatever, and your notepad, your notebook, and we're going to handle it still. So it's here to stay. And of course, we have done a lot of renovations in all of our courthouses in our circuit. When we do start back to last work, we have installed various barriers and whatnot, plexiglass and also some bulletproof glass to protect us, things of that nature, camera screens and microphones to try to make everything much better and safer for everybody, because we want everybody to be safe. That's the goal. And that's where I serve now. I've been on the bench since 2013. Yeah, the election was 2012, since 2013, and within my second term. And we did something very amazing. We were the first person to have when we ran for that position, we won every county. Every time somebody has sought the position of a circuit judge, there's always a county that, they can't always prevail in. They've always been tight races, but we were able to prevail. And since that time, on my re-election time came up, we came in unopposed. And so we're on the second term now, and we plan to move forward, and we're going to go from there. And so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's definitely a little bit.
I try to condense it as possible because I'm a member of a whole lot of organizations and things of that nature, but that's not so important right now.
I was gonna say we hadn't even gotten to that yet, and you touched on a lot. You talked about a lot of different things that you were a part of that we also want to sort of kind of get into a little bit. And the first thing I kind of wanted to start with was you spent some time in up north in East Chicago. and
Yes.
before you even came back to Selma. And so, were there some differences as far as being a young boy growing up in that time? And I know you also mentioned something about Dallas County, but if I'm not mistaken, we were told the situation. Speak on this if you want to, because I feel like we can at
Wait,
this point.
say that again. I missed something came up. I
Okay.
missed exactly what
No,
you
no,
said.
no, no. What I was going to say was, I want you. It's two things I'm asking for you, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Um, can you talk about the differences that you've seen as far as on a racial standpoint from living in East Chicago and living in Selma, but
Okay.
also, can you also speak on the situation of what happened to you as a high school graduate when you were preparing to graduate? That's something that my sister and I, we always talk about. I don't think people know about. So I would love for you to
Oh,
share that story.
as well. Two things. Well, when I was born, I was told. I don't remember that much, but I was told that the day I came out the hospital with my mom, we were whisked in a vehicle, and my father moved to Mobile, Alabama. So spent the first uh, 3 years down in Mobile, Alabama, living, and then we moved up to East Chicago, Indiana, right next to Chicago, and of course, that's where I grew up, and I started learning and remembering everything, and I matriculated as a young person. Uh, 4754 McCook Avenue, that's my address. Those things that they taught us that stuff. So if you were ever lost, you could let the policemen know. See, back then they were trying to teach us certain values to honor certain folk, and that's how things were. Now, the area that I grew up in was a minority area, but the predominant minorities were African Americans, but there were also a lot of Polish people and Czech people who were there. So a lot of immigrants. And so East Chicago is located right next to Gary, Indiana. And if you keep moving west towards Chicago, you run into Calumet and Hammond, and then you get to the state line, and then you get to the Chicago border. And so, but that's the area that I grew up in, and I never forget. We were so proud back in 1969 and 1970. There were two high schools in East Chicago Roosevelt, which is now closed, and East Chicago Washington. Well, in '69, Roosevelt won the state basketball championship. Basketball is big in Indiana. I mean, real like football is big down here. Basketball is huge in Indiana, and Roosevelt won the state championship. And the very next year, Washington came and won the state championship. And there's a story behind that. I'm not going to get into that backstory because there's a guy who played with Washington, Junior Bridgman, who probably should have been my brother-in-law, but I'm going to leave that alone. But moving on down to Dallas County. I know what you're talking about. Back, when I was in high school, I was fairly intelligent. I didn't look at myself as smart. I just made good grades, and I made good grades just to make them. I had no idea that I was one of the top students. I remember I had a couple of my friends, a couple of young ladies who were vying. They wanted to graduate, whether it be valedictorian or salutatorian. They worked hard at it. Well, I had some natural God gifted ability, and I was always a prankster. We did all kind of stuff. We always would get in trouble, and the principal didn't like us. There's a long story behind that, but we were just rabble rousers. We were not, as I would say, bad people. We were just mischievous, if I could explain that right. But we would do all kinds of things, man. But and I could go through some stories, and I can call on some of my buddies. But when it came time to graduate, the office administration, I guess they added up all the records, and wow, I came out on top. I was going to be valedictorian, and so some kind of way they switched some things around and had a couple of my grades changed, and ended up graduating salutatorian. And so now I didn't know that. I didn't find all this out until later. And so I gave the salutatory address and whatnot, and I was proud of that and went on. I was shocked and surprised. But when I found out I should have been valedictorian, and the person who was valedictorian was a person who actually worked in the office, and I took all the hard courses, all of the physical sciences, the chemistries, all the high-end maths. Well, this person, now don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with learning trades, but this person actually had went to the trade school and took the remedial courses. But be that as it may, when I decided to go to college, I said, look, I'm not going to mess around with my grades anymore. So So I decided I'm going to go to college and I'm going to do as best as I could. Now, I played football and baseball my first year too, but I quit playing baseball after my first year because I had to really concentrate on my studies. That was just too much because football is a life, and football was a great lifestyle. But when I went to college, I said I'm gonna develop me a system. And so what I did was from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock every night, Sunday through Friday. I took Saturdays off. That was my study time. When I first got there, we didn't even have a syllabus, but I still started just studying the layer of the land. And once I got a core syllabus, I'd read the whole syllabus and figure out what needed to be done. And I started working on term papers from day one so I can fill in the notes. And from that 3 hour span gave me sufficient time, even though I played football. I mean, we would get up and sometimes have two and three a day sometimes. But I juggled all that, my classes, and I went to class on time. You know, even though I may have had an 8 o'clock class, I didn't get in until 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm still in class at 8. And so because I'm taking notes and I'm filling in those notes, what the teacher says, and I made all A's in college. You know, I was the top student, all A's, you know, and I was very proud of that. I was able to do that. Then I went on to law school and did well there and came out and took the bar exam, made the second highest score in the state at that time, the 85 examination, and went forward. And I've been practicing ever since. But that's where I am.
So
I hope I answered some questions.
you did, but I do want to just clarify because I want to just make sure that for our listeners out there and people that's viewing. So essentially, all of that you did was motivated from the moment when you were passed over for valedictorian for the for the white girl who ended up being valedictorian in high school. That's essentially what I wanted you to actually really sort of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
I got you. I didn't mention that. Yeah, I did not mention the racial component. I apologize for that. But yes, you know, we know this was 1978 now, so you know, black folks still was considered second class, and all of my top administrators were white, and so that's what they wanted. They didn't want this, and not only me being a black young man, I was the mischievous fellow too. So they didn't want that. They didn't want me to represent the school like that.
Right. I do want to ask one more. I'm gonna turn it over to Brother Basilis. One of the judges you always talk about is Judge Roderick B. Thomas.
Yes.
Can you talk about him and sort of how influential he was for you?
Sure. Judge Roderick B. Thomas was a black judge. He was the first black circuit court judge ever elected in the state of Alabama. And he's from Dallas County. You know, he lived here in Dallas County. Now there's a history behind him. You have to understand the times. In 1865, the Civil War was over and all our black folks were emancipated, and then they were allowed to start voting. They took over the voting rolls. And there were so many slaves here in Dallas County that the black people outnumbered the white people, or some folks say 4-1. And so Judge Thomas was very astute. He knew how to get the people together and get them to the polls to vote. And so now there's a lot of history behind him, and our white citizens have tried to write him out of history because they didn't like him. Now, he was the first black person elected to the clerk of the Dallas County Criminal Court. See, the Dallas County Criminal Court is the same thing as our circuit court now, but they had different divisions, and they had the civil and criminal. And so he was the first clerk of that Dallas County Criminal Court back in 1869, 4 years, a little less than 4 years after the Civil War. He got black folk to vote, and he was elected clerk. White folks didn't like him. Now, also something you don't know, Colin, he was the first black person in 1873 elected to the Selma City Council. Now, you go down to the Selma City Council, you see nothing in history about him. No pictures, nothing whatsoever. But he was the first black city council person. I know we talk about what happened in 1972 when we had a whole slew of black people elected. However, he was the first black person elected to the Selma City Council in 1873. And so that's how far along that was, but the white folk hated him. And so even from that time, he decided to run for circuit judge, which he did in 1874. He won that election. So in 1874, he was the first black circuit judge from Dallas County. Now, a lot of folks say when I won my election, I was the first black circuit judge. I said, no, that's not right. I'm the first black circuit judge since Reconstruction, because you had to understand the history behind Reconstruction. That after black folks got the right to vote, then came all of the Jim Crow laws. The state constitution was changed. That's why the constitution we under now was made in 1901. That's the Alabama Constitution of 1901. And not just Alabama, you're talking about Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, Tennessee, Kentucky, all these southern states, Louisiana. They start changing things. The Reconstruction era. They reconstructed everything to keep black folks down. But I'm the first black judge from Dallas County, and I'm not the first judge elected. The first black judge elected, a guy named Nathaniel Walker, who's a great friend. He was the elected district judge. But as far as in our circuit, I'm the first black circuit judge elected since Reconstruction. But the first black judge was the first black judge from Dallas County, who was the first black judge in the state of Alabama, elected in 1874, Roderick B. Thomas. Now, Judge Thomas was done bad. Our white counterparts went to him and they told him, they said, look, we don't want you to be our circuit judge. We asked you to resign. And he looked at them like they were crazy. He said, I'm not resigning. And he refused to resign. Now, I'm sure they plotted and thought about, we need to kill him. He's just a problem. But then they realized that, no, we can't do that because he is a circuit judge and he has the power and the cloak and the power of the state over him. And if we do that, they're going to kill us. So what they decided to do, they got smart. They went to the state legislature. See, okay, he was elected in 1874, took office by constitution in January of 1875. Now, the state legislature opened up, just like they do now, the second week in February of that year. The first bill on the state legislature was to abolish the whole entire circuit court in Dallas County. And that's what they did. And so he served less than a month. They abolished the whole court, and Dallas County went without a circuit criminal court for a whole year before he was reconstituted with the next legislative session, and a white person was appointed by the governor. But and then after that, they indicted Judge Thomas on some bogus voter fraud charges. The charges were so bogus that one of the former Confederate generals, who was a lawyer, represented him and had the charges thrown out and dismissed. But of course, he had all kinds of death threats against him. And so he ended up leaving Alabama. He had married his new bride, who was a school teacher, and they moved to Arkansas. Now, the state of Arkansas has some history on him, but you can't hardly find any history in the state of Alabama on Judge Thomas because they try to write him out of history. That's why history is so important. If we don't carry it on and express it, it'll be forgotten. Most times when I get a chance to speak, especially during Black History Month, I talk about Judge Thomas. And I had to speak a couple of weeks ago at a place, and I told everybody here in Dallas County about Judge Thomas. They were just amazed and shocked. And I told them how to find the little history they could, where they could find it, and had them to go ahead and share that so they could see that, there has been some meanness by some of our white counterparts, our white folks, our white friends here. But at the same time, there has been some kindness. Without their help, we couldn't have made the strides we have. But there's been some meanness, some downright meanness now. And we need to understand it. We just can't forget that. And we need to understand it and be prepared for that to move forward. But I love to talk about Judge Thomas for what he had to go through. And he lived the rest of his days in Arkansas, and the state of Arkansas actually has a monument dedicated toward him. But Alabama has nothing.
Yeah, I have to bring you on my radio show that we do maybe one Tuesday to really, really kind of do a deep dive into him and his life, because that's I actually had no idea who he was until you mentioned him the other day when we kind of talked leading up until today. So
all right.
Yeah, I think that's really good. But Basilis, I'm gonna throw it over to you.
You've already kind of expanded on it, but I just want to ask another question within that question. Before you became a judge, you worked for over 25 years as a lawyer for one of the largest Black law firms in the state.
28. Don't cut me 3 years. Those were hard 3 years, man.
28 years. Okay.
28. Hey, I'm sorry. I was short. I apologize for the short of 3 years.
That's all right.
What? Because when you think about Black history, you think about realistic of sports. everybody has a moment in their career where you do that one thing and it transitions to you for people to like, oh, hey, that's Judge Pettaway right there. Like you got to be on your business. Like, what case or what situation were you in that said, hey, that's lawyer Pettaway right there? Like, it kind of solidifies you in your career.
That's totally what these folks in Selma say.
Well,
they don't even say it. They say lawyer Pettaway. That's exactly how they say it.
Lawyer Pettaway.
Yeah. Well, what really brought me some attention was I was representing a person in a criminal case, and we were able to get him found not guilty through an all-white jury. But we just presented the case and just show how absolutely it should have been impossible for him to not only have committed the crime, but he even not should have been charged. And it was a very high profile matter. That kind of got me on the map and things going. But later on, toward the end of my career as a lawyer, I took on the state when we represented our local bingo establishment in Whitehall. I was their lawyer, and I didn't realize the number of people who frequented the establishment. Everybody was rooting for me to beat the state so that we can keep the place open. You know, the gaming facility employed 211 people, which was a great boost to the city of Whitehall in Lowndes County. And it was just really unfair for the state to try to pick on us like they did. Because I'll never forget, they raided the place like about 4 o'clock in the morning and shut it down, confiscated all the machines, all the cash we had, and everything. And David Barber at the time, who was the gaming czar, who was appointed by the Governor Riley at that time, he held a press conference right there on the lot. And I was standing right there because of course, I got up early and went out there to see what was going on. And I filed some pleadings in circuit court immediately. But he had a press conference and he was telling the media that this was going to be their test case. They want to test the bingo laws in the state, and they're going to go ahead and let the Supreme Court make a decision. And I said to myself, I said, David, hold it. Don't we have to go to circuit court first? And of course, I didn't realize that apparently, and I say this, I'm a judge, I say it. I really felt that they had already had put the fix in with my fellow Supreme Court justices who were on the bench at the time. And because I had some evidence showing that there had been some conversations going on back and forth between certain folk that I actually presented to the Middle District U.S. Attorney's Office, and I thought they were going to investigate that. When they did investigate, they came out with some indictments, and I thought they were going to go ahead and pick up some people. Heck, they started picking up the wrong folk, like Milton McGregor, Quentin Ross. They got Quentin Quentin was former senator. He's president of Alabama State now. Got him out of his bed in his underwear and everything, which was just unfair to that man. Quentin didn't do anything. He wasn't even a part of what we were doing. But of course he was exonerated immediately. But still, that's just a hassle. That wasn't fair. But a lot of people remember me from that because apparently they wanted to keep the facilities going. I didn't realize as many people frequented that place as they did. I got more press from that than I did anything. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what case I actually thought you were going to mention?
Which one? It was so many now.
Well, yeah, I actually thought you were going to talk about the black farmers case. That
black farmers. Yeah. Oh yeah. We went across the country to do it, but of course,
that was national. That was against the president, President George Bush. That was big.
Right. Yeah. Well. Technically, it was against the Secretary of Agriculture, which is the agency, the Department of Agriculture, and of course, George Bush was president back then, but the Department of Agriculture, and that was a very big case. But I was just one lawyer amongst many who were doing that. Matter of fact, my law firm got in on the case after it already got started, but we took it over, and that was the largest civil rights case in U.S. history. Over $2 billion was paid out on that case, but very little went to the lawyers, the way it was structured. So, but that was a great case. And we went all across the country doing things and working on that case.
Yeah, a lot a lot of people in this area, they know Chestnut Sanders from and Pettaway from that case. People my age, they talk about that.
Well, that's your age. But of course, there were discrimination cases which made some impact. There was this Winn-Dixie case we had that we were able to prevail in, and also I remember I had a case against a company over in Montgomery that we ended up getting a settlement. Now, one big settlement we had, we ended up suing Russell Athletics. You know, that to make all the athletic gear out of out of East Alabama, or they all over there, Alexander City and whatnot. But we had to sue Russell, and that was a long drawn out case. But we prevailed with that, and I did a lot of work on that case. But a lot of folks didn't know I was working on it. But that was a major case we handled, discrimination, because discrimination cases are very hard to win because of the way the laws are constructed. But you still have to be diligent and just keep at it. Just keep at it.
That's good advice. Bro, Boswell, I'm giving it back to you.
Okay. That was some great some great points you made, some things that I didn't know about you that I'm glad to know. And I think that our viewers are glad to know some of that stuff as well. Even before being an outstanding judge, you made your mark with being a great lawyer. So that shows a lot about you. Can you talk about the role of Omega Psi Phi and how it plays in your everyday life?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, Omega Psi Phi has been so important, even since my college days. I wanted to be affiliated at that time. I got hurt playing football and had to delay some things. But, being a history major, when we talk about Black history, and Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who is a fellow Omega, in Omega chapter now, but, he is credited with starting our Black history. And at the time, it was Black History Week, because basically he was just trying to get a celebration going. And it was during that week. And then after that week, it expanded to a whole year. I mean, a whole month. It should be every day in the year now. Don't get me wrong. It should just be part of regular history. However, in studying all of that, Omega Psi Phi is the progenitor of that. It was because of his affiliation with Omega Psi Phi, with the fraternity, at one of the conclaves. They pulled together and really started getting the Black history going. And my son had an epiphany one day. He learned that history, and he was telling me about it. And I told him, oh yes, of course, that's what really excited me about this great fraternity. We make strides to try to uplift everybody. And so when I carry myself as an Omega man, and most people around here know that, they know that I represent Omega, and I try to do the best I can in doing that. And I ask each of you in your vocations and your dealings, and when you go, know that you are Omega. Folks know you are Omega, especially when they see these shows and whatnot. They know you are Omega. So represent Omega. Just like I tell folks, my church folk, you represent Christ right. Well, keep Omega uplifted and going forward. But Omega has been a very great beacon of light before me. And, if I got rid of all the purple and gold I have, I might be naked. But go ahead.
That deserves a root.
Hey. All right.
Listen, but no.
Clown. Well, I'm gonna get some of that shoulder we had in a minute. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you're right though. I think for me that Omega moment, brother Bruce Reese always talks about that moment. Look at brother over there. I love it.
He got the fever. You're getting that fever going. I hear you. Go ahead. That's an inside Omega joke if folks don't understand that.
I love it. But no, seriously, brother Bruce Reese always talked about that moment that you have, that epiphany that hits you in Omega. And I know for me, it was when I started researching, and I started researching Carter G. Woodson, and I learned the role that Omega Psi Phi played. Not just what he did through Omega Psi Phi, but what Omega Psi Phi did going into Black History Month and where it is now. And so, hey, give those props because it's there and it's history and it's
I
street.
got you. Hey, look, let me mention one more thing. Somebody just sent me a note and wanted me to, I guess they're watching this show. They want me to talk about the mobile home lawsuit. And I think, yes. I think what they're talking about is we had this great big class action that dealt with polyethylene pipes. And they were mostly used for those different mobile homes. Now, that was one lawsuit. But there's also another lawsuit that I represented people dealing with zoning issues. You had different like the town of Warville and there's a place in Clinton. We're trying to stop people from locating mobile homes, and I would represent many of the mobile home dealers and the mobile home buyers, so we can go ahead and get the proper variances and take on that, showing how those laws that they passed were arbitrary and capricious and against the Constitution. Now, somebody else wants me to talk about the Perkins versus Smithman case. Now, that is a case, a big landmark case that a lot of people remember me from. I represented our first African-American mayor, who is actually my brother by marriage, James Perkins, who's currently mayor now. And we had to sue the great white establishment, Joe T. Smithman, who was mayor in Selma for 36 years. And we had to sue him on an election fraud contest case. And we end up working, the first time we ended up working out a consent decree where we showed where there was just overwhelming fraud. But the thing about Alabama law, unless you show enough votes that were fraudulent and illegal, vote by vote to change the outcome, you won't prevail. But they were afraid we were going to, we were meticulous about it. Now we were going to show, and it was taking forever, but we were going to show as many votes as we could. I mean, I had counted enough votes to win. However, it's going to take a while. And so we ended up making a settlement. And in that settlement, we had this absentee ballot commission that took over the absentees for the city of Selma for the next 3 election cycles, because clearly they were using that to help to defraud and win elections. And that was a big case people remember. Also, I represented one of our frat brothers, Curtis Williams, when he first ran for county commission. They wanted to take it from him, and so we had to represent him to keep him in. Now this was the same thing they were trying to do, that Trump was trying to do. See, the law says that when you certify those election results, that's a ministerial act. You have no discretion. You just go ahead and just say, these are the numbers. Well, when the commission met, they didn't want Curtis Williams to win, so they kept trying to say, well, these numbers aren't correct. We're not going to certify them. So I had to take them all the way to the Alabama Supreme Court and force them to certify the election to get Curtis in office. Now, there's another case, and I thought about this. See, there's so much stuff that I can go through all day. But
I was going to say it definitely.
I actually represented the Patriot Party, and we won in the Alabama Supreme Court to get third-party access in the state of Alabama. See, Alabama, like many states, a two-party state, Republican and Democrat. Well, third parties need to have a chance too, and so I represented the first successful third-party candidate, guy out of Greene County, County Commissioner Nate Robertson. We represented him successfully, and were able to get third-party ballot access for the entire state opened up. And so, although now I am a Democrat, I believe in the Democratic Party, but I also believe in being fair and right. And so I was glad to represent the Patriot Party and got them third-party access. Now they end up morphing into the Ross Perot-led party, and then things kind of changed. And so I left them, they were kind of going on some ideological differences that I had at that time, and I just left them alone. But there's a lot, I can go over a whole lot, man, but that's where we are. I want to talk about Judge Thomas mostly, though. Go ahead, sir.
Well, no, I was going to say, listen, this is so much. I love the fact that's one of the things that we started this was the fact that we're able to get so much history and so much knowledge out of this. We definitely appreciate it. One of the last things we sort of want to ask I know I just want to just sort of kind of get into a minute, if you don't mind. Can you sort of also talk about and just get into what it means when you're on this stage and when you're on these national platforms representing Selma, and what does that mean for Black people and for people of color, when you're in these positions that you've worked so hard for?
Oh yeah, well also it's always a something great, because I never forget when I first went to law school in
And I'm sitting here talking and realizing I was muted. I was just going to just simply say that is awesome. I know for me, I feel the same way. Not even just being born in Selma, but just representing Selma, period. We talk about that all the time. That's one of the questions we always ask. All of the people.
That's right. Well, not only that, from my house, yeah.
Right. That's right. As always, of course, we definitely want to just thank all of you for tuning in with us on this evening. Judge Pettaway, we certainly want to thank you for the time that you definitely put in to speak with us on this evening. Brother Bosworth, I'm going to turn it over to you to give our final remarks.
Thank you, Judge Pettaway Jr. for being a part of this. It says a lot to know your story and know what you endured to get to the point that where you are. And I'm thankful to say that you're my frat brother. And it's definitely was an honor to sit up under you as I learned the position that I now hold in the chapter. So I do appreciate you for those remarks and leading our chapter. And I appreciate you passing the baton over to the young brothers and just trying to lead the way for the near future, man. Continue being a beacon of light to our community, and let's continue as a whole as Omega Psi Phi and with your lead as circuit judge to build our community back up and make it be the great place that it has always been. Thank you for your time.
Yes, no doubt.
All right, thank you all so much again. You all have a great night. We're signing off.